And it changed the way I viewed my reality around me. Those are the type of experiences that you can have. And, okay, I want to tell you something else that quantum physics has discovered in the last few decades. Quantum physics is the study of the smallest of particles of all of matter. And as physicists delve into the smallest of particles, they begin to realize the underlying mechanics of what the universe is actually comprised of. For one thing, and I'm not going to go into all of it, you're going to have to research it if you're interested on your own. But one of the things physicists have realized is that where we once thought of as particles, like the atom with the electrons coming around, and I used to teach my students in elementary school that the atom was like a little solar system. And the planets were like the electrons. And the sun was like the protons and the neutrons that make up the center of your atom. And physicists have realized that that is true. But the deeper nature of all subatomic particles is a wave. And the reason they know that is because they cannot pinpoint a particle. When they want to identify the speed of a particle, it determines whether they visualize it and find out that it's a particle or a wave. And they found out it's both. It's a wave that stretches out infinitely. And everything is stretched out as a wave. And all these waves are really connected. See, we are all one. The universe is made of the same substance. Whether you want to call it consciousness, whether you want to call it quantum mechanics, whether you want to call it God, it is made of the same substance. And the substance is wave-like in its truest nature. Now you don't perceive it as that because the senses do not perceive that wave-like nature. They perceive the differentiation of particles as time and space. But remember that what you perceive through your senses is not what the ultimate nature of reality is. Okay, reality is much deeper. And what they did, and this is a replicatable experiment that has been replicated many times, and I'm not BSing you about this. They took a particle, a subatomic particle, and split it into two polarized particles of the same thing. Two particles now of the same thing, and each one was polarized to the other. And as they manipulated one of those polarized particles, the other one would simultaneously do the opposite thing. And it didn't matter the distance between the particles. And that really perplexed quantum physicists because the reality of physical matter is that it cannot travel faster than the speed of light. Yet these two polarized particles, they are communicating in some way to be able to be connected and polarize and do the opposite of what the other one is doing. There's some kind of communication going on there. And that communication is taking place faster than the speed of light. How's that? And that's what they asked themselves. And then several physicists came to the conclusion that those particles, they seem like they're separated, but they really still aren't. They're really the same particle, yet we perceive them to be in two separate places. They're not traveling faster. Communication is not traveling faster between them than the speed of light. That's an illusion. We see them as two separate particles. I see myself separate from you. Guess what? That's a perception. You see yourself separate from the universe. That's a perception. That's not a reality. And so they begin to realize that these particles, they appear to be separate, but they're not. That's why they're still connected and polarized. Now, here's an example of a physical example of what to illustrate what I'm saying. If you walk up to a fish tank, and maybe this has happened to you, walk up to a corner of a rectangular fish tank where the corners touch, and you may see a fish on one side of the tank, and you may think that there are two fish because you see another fish on the other side of the flat surface. And these fish, you start to notice, they're kind of moving the same thing. You know, they turn this way and they both turn this way. Are you seeing two fish? No, that's a perception. It's really the same fish. And that's much of what the quantum physicists found out as they did this experiment, which has been replicated, which has totally thrown into chaos their previous theory that everything is separate. The reality that they're coming to find out is that everything is not separate. Everything is non-local. That time and space is an illusion of the senses and not the ultimate reality. Okay? As you begin to understand these things, your connection with everything around you, that these things are a part of you, not separate from you, because you realize they're a part of you, you're able to control them. And that's what the mystics have understood. Mystics will tell you, you are one with God. You are one with, Buddha said, you are one with the law. He meant the universe. That's the way he described it. Jesus said, I am one with the Father. That he equated the greater creation, the universe, and his ultimate self. He called it the Father. Krishna called it the ultimate self. I don't care what you call it, it's the same thing. And as soon as you realize your oneness with it, you realize that that's a part of you and you are able to control it. But reaching that state of truly realizing your oneness with it is not a mental state. It is changing the subconscious beliefs that you have ingrained in your understanding of reality. Now, I mentally understand that I am one with everything. And that is the first step of my changing my subconscious beliefs about reality. But I still hold beliefs that are under the surface of my consciousness, that things are separate. And now it's better than it was when I was a child. I perceived everything as separate, but consciously. But now I consciously perceive it as connected. So that belief is permeating into my subconscious at this point. And the more it permeates and crystallizes in my subconscious understanding, the more it's able to rise to the conscious, and I'm able to manifest that understanding. It takes much meditation. It takes much practice to arrive at the state where all of your incorrect subconscious beliefs are expunged from your mind. It doesn't happen all at once. Just because you consciously understand something does not mean your conscious mind has gained that understanding to say that I really believe that. You have to really believe it, not just consciously. And that takes practice. And that's why conscious creation and magic does not just happen for you when you start the path. That path is actually a way of changing your view of reality